After 10 years, Halo 3 has become the kind of game that pretty much defies the pretense of objective examination. There's much more to Halo 3 than the contents of its packaging and disc, and to try to evaluate it in a vacuum, independently of its fame and enduring legacy, might make for an interesting thought experiment, but really wouldn't speak true to the nature of the game. It's kind of like Star Wars that way. Really, it's kind of like Star Wars in a lot of ways, but the most obvious way would be the epic space opera setting. It's bombastic and full of melodrama, and while the particulars of the plot might get complicated, the overall story is a simple one of fighting to save humanity from destruction. Even the most fully developed characters still settle into well-defined archetypes, or cliches if you're feeling snide and have forgotten how to have fun, and it's all fairly predictable stuff, which isn't going to challenge you to think about the consequences of your actions. The extended universe stuff gets into darker territory, what with the books and all, but for the most part, you're in feel-good, fight-the-good fight territory. Given what I've said in other videos about other games, you might think that that was a criticism of this game, as though I were about to accuse it of glorifying violence or advancing a fascist agenda or something, but it's really not. It's a broadly appealing, easily digestible story that's not likely to offend people, because the game is just trying to give players a setting to have fun in. It's way more interested in being a sublime toy than in being taken seriously as a piece of art. It's like a technologically evolved form of playing with action figures. Big heroes with big guns fighting bad guys who want to hurt you just because. You could easily project your own meanings onto it, but if you actually think that Halo 3 is trying to make any points about anything, then you've had way too much caffeine, and you also might not be as smart as you want people to think you are, you dirty hipster. Being the third game in a trilogy, Halo 3's only real duties are to preserve and improve upon the gameplay template laid down in the first two games, and to bring some closure to the story. And yeah, it totally does both of those things. All three games followed a simple pattern of nudging you through fairly large environments, often with squads of soldiers providing support, and pitting you against a few distinct enemy types with easy behaviors to learn and anticipate. Occasionally, you'd be given the opportunity to use one of several different kinds of human or alien vehicles to zip around and wreak havoc in. While there were differences from one game to the next involving available weapons and vehicles, and tweaks to what they do, the rhythm of the combat remained virtually the same through all three games. There really isn't a whole lot more I can say about Halo 3 as a product that hasn't been said to death and beyond, so instead I'm going to spend some time talking about the lasting impact that it's had on gaming. It was pretty much the first real king of multiplayer on the Xbox 360, and it included a revolutionary theater mode, which allowed you to revisit matches you've played and detach the camera, move it around, look at things from different angles, and even play things back in slow motion. This added a new layer to the already heavily social experience of playing a multiplayer console game by giving players the ability to share screenshots and clips with each other directly through the game. You no longer had to just take your friend's word for it that he got that sweet headshot on some guy while they were both in midair. You could actually see it now, with your own super trustworthy two eyes. More artistic players could even spend time in the creative sandboxy Forge mode, which gave you the ability to plunk down and rearrange objects into existing maps, and with some patience, you could, in effect, create your own levels. Couple that with the capabilities of the theater mode, and players were empowered and encouraged to not just play the game as it was presented to them, but to use it as a canvas for their own creativity. A burst of machinima creation followed this game, and awesome videos of Rube Goldberg machines made within the game began to float around. The game enjoyed the kind of user-driven longevity that had previously been the gated domain of PC classics like Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, and Half-Life. And no matter whatever happens to its online servers, Halo 3 is LAN capable, so continued creative use will still be viable for as long as the hardware exists. It's without a doubt one of the great must-own games of all time, and yet I'm hesitant to call it a masterpiece. Its single-player mode does little new, and taken on its own, it's a simple and nostalgia-driven exercise in gratifying feelings. But so is Star Wars. It's a place in our hearts that we can connect with and share with one another. It's every bit as sappy as that last sentence sounds. But by God, it's a wonderful, happy, sweet, sappy goo that you're welcome to come nest in, closing your eyes and curling up into the fetal position as you're surrounded by the comforting embrace of warm flesh. Wait, I think I've derailed. I like Halo 3.
Hard to believe he's dead. We're it so easy.